other cats just like drape it over everything. So you just, yes.
Well, you see, now this is the thing. I'm one of those people. Oh, and it's funny that you're talking about cats because one of the films we're going to talk about today does have a cat in it, and, and
Okay.
yeah, it does have a cat in it. But I'm one of those people who I'm not particularly a cat person. I just feel like they're so kind of like, yes, yes, you should be glad that I'm here to foul your house.
Yeah. And it's like they don't care whose garden it is. It's like, it's not our garden, doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, they're essentially, as far as a cat is concerned, the world is its toilet.
The world is, yes, everywhere it's fair game. It's just like, no.
Right. Okay. Let's go fly into this.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema, watches films, stays at home, watches films, and then at the end of it all has a bit of an existential crisis as it sits down and goes, "Hang on a second. Which one of these was better? Where did I better spend my money?" My name is Tosin and I will be your host this evening. I am based up in the Midlands somewhere, and on the Isle of Wight joining me is Sharon. How are you doing, Sharon?
Hello. I'm well, thank you. How are you, Toes?
Doing well, doing well, doing well. So we actually have a Shaun. We have made contact and we have confirmed that Shaun is back from Thailand, but Shaun is busy this
Yes.
evening somewhere else. So for that reason, even though I think the film that I feel if we review the film, if we reviewed this particular film without Shaun being around, he would just probably like not talk to us again and just never be on the podcast ever again. And and that film is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think is it was released yesterday, which is really weird. I mean, they started having
Yes.
this Wednesday releases in cinemas, which seems to be a new thing this year. I'm not sure whether you found that, Sharon.
Yes, I've noticed that. I suddenly, yes, yeah, I've noticed that they seem to be midweek release now, and you think I thought it was always the weekend. So
Well,
yeah, I don't
it
know why.
it always used to be a Friday. Then a couple of years
Yeah.
they moved it forward to like Thursday. Well, I guess it was technically a Friday morning because it would be like Thursday just past midnight.
Yes, they'd catch the Friday night cinema
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah, and
But now it seems to be even, yes, Wednesday.
yeah,
Okay.
Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, I was listening to. It, I was like, "What the?" Once upon a time in Hollywood, the first showings are Wednesday morning at like 11 o'clock. What? And so yeah, I don't exactly know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I've been watching quite a few sort of like YouTube videos. There's some YouTube channels, things like What Culture and Looper, and they have all these YouTube videos
Yeah.
that pretty much adaptations of articles where they say 10 movies that were sent out in cinemas to die, and they were essentially talking the kind of things that we talk about from a not so educated point of view. They're sort of saying, yeah, these are films that essentially, when you look at the economics behind it, they pretty much said this film's not going to make any money. We're just going to send it out to cinemas and it's going to disappear. Because they had films like Booksmart was on that list, and some of the films that we've spoken about going like, why would you release that? What are you doing? Yeah, they even mentioned Shaft, which we spoke about the other week, which
Yes.
I knew absolutely nothing about. I did not even know they were making this film, and I thought it was a
No, it came
Netflix.
from nowhere.
Yeah, I thought it was a Netflix film, but it turns out that it was actually released in cinemas in the States, but they went, oh, this is not gonna make any money. So Netflix went, oh, we'll take it. So, the film studio sold it to Netflix to distribute everywhere else in the world as a Netflix movie. So,
That's just
well, yeah,
strange.
well, yeah, I don't know, but I think the basic thing is that for to release a film in cinema nowadays, it is seemingly increasingly difficult to make money if you are not owned by Disney.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
do seem to have a bit of a monopoly on the entertainment business as a whole, don't they?
Well,
They
yeah,
seem to be buying up every sort of, they have their little fingers in every pie,
well,
it
they
seems, at the moment.
I mean, I'm struggling. Okay, I think a film that has done really well this year that is not owned by Disney, I can only think of maybe Hobbs and Shaw, and that has done somewhere in the region. I think maybe getting to around about 500,000 worldwide. When you're looking at the $3 billion movies this year have all been Disney, So
Yes. They
it
are mighty.
yeah, and this is when Netflix just steps in. Netflix is like, oh well, we don't care. We will go and we will
Yeah.
we will feed the masses who do not want to go and watch the 15th Iron Man movie or something. But I mean, having said that, I mean, I love the Iron Man movies and everything like that. So I'm not. Well, actually, I'm happy, but I'm kind of bothered because I don't know what it means for the future of cinema.
No, that's the only concern. I read an article earlier in the year about this very thing, about why certain films or certain types of films are just not appearing at the cinemas. And they did sort of point squarely at, Netflix and Amazon Prime, saying, well, actually, these companies are doing better with those sort of films, and so they're not, the people who are producing them are cutting out the middleman
So,
and the
sorry,
cinema
Sharon.
chains and going,
I can't hear anything. It sounds like there's something over the speaker, over the
oh, it might be
microphone.
my hand.
Okay, yeah. So,
Okay, I'll move my hand.
all right, yep, yeah. So I heard that they said there's some specific films that,
That just aren't making it their way to cinema screens.
yep,
They are just not appearing at cinemas. They in this article they basically said, well, a lot of films like the romantic comedies, the sort of, well, comedy in general, unless it's of a certain type, is going straight to Netflix or Amazon Prime. They're missing out the middleman. They're not bothering to have a cinema release anymore. They're just going straight onto platforms
yeah,
for people to watch.
but you can kind of understand that because I can't think of the last, like straight up comedy that was actually a hit in cinemas. I feel like most comedies going to cinemas don't do that well. Then people discover them at home on DVD, and then it's years after that the first film people be like, oh my god, that was so funny, and then they hand it around, and maybe the second film that gets released, that one is allowed to be a hit. It happened with Austin Powers. I remember Austin Powers.
Yes.
I remember thinking that was a hilarious film. Didn't watch it at the cinema. Then everybody started talking about it. Everybody handed around the DVD. Everybody, and then we went and watched the second one, and the second one was one of the biggest films of that year when it was released. And so I always feel like comedy, well, in cinema, I actually think a TV screen might be the natural home for comedy, because in cinema, when you go to watch something on a big screen, you don't really want to, okay, unless it was something like American Pie, which was just a laugh riot, or Mars Attacks. I remember Mars Attacks being an absolute laugh riot with everybody in the cinema cracking up. But if you have a chance of, oh, I'm going to go see something that's going to be big and has great sound and things are going to blow up, I'm probably going to go to the cinema and spend my money to watch that than go to the cinema and spend £10 to watch people sit around and laugh and talk or trying to make me laugh. So
Yeah. I can't remember the last one I saw at the cinema, to be quite honest with you. I'm not a great comedy fan, but every now and then I don't mind something that's amusing. But I can't remember an outright comedy that I've seen for a long time.
yeah, I think the last
Yeah, they just don't translate.
the last one I saw, I think, was Game Night. No, I guess there was Stuber. That was trying to be funny. But,
Yeah.
but anyway, let's set up about that a bit. I'm not gonna go back and review something I've already reviewed just to have a rant about something I'd forgotten to have a rant about the first time.
Yeah.
Because
That breaks our rules anyway. If we've already reviewed it, we don't review it again.
well, it's kind of like last week how you started talking about Lion King and you got me off on it. After after I got off the phone, I was like, oh yeah, and that, oh yes, and this.
And another thing I should have said, yeah.
pretty much. So I got off the phone with you, and the rant just carried on. The rant just carried on in my head. I was just like, oh yeah, there's so many things about that film I did not say. And all the while trying to say, well, when I went to see it the second time around, I had a better time.
Yeah, I'm much more mellow about it now. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you should have caught me first. You should have caught me before the mellowing happened. You should have caught me then. So anyway, shall we carry on to this week?
Yes.
All right. So this week you have done a complete 180 from what you did last week. Last week where you hadn't seen
Yes.
anything in the cinema and you only seen stuff at home, and now you've done the complete 180 and seen nothing at home and spend your entire week in the cinema.
Yes, that's right. My spare evenings this week, instead of thinking, I need to watch something, I'm thinking, okay, what's on the pictures? I need to go to the pictures. So I went twice this week.
You went twice, and
Yes.
you got to see a film that I didn't even know, I've never heard of. But first of all, we're going to go with a film that we have both seen, and that film
Yes.
is one that I mentioned last week, and you were like, "Oh yay, film for grown-ups!"
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Blinded by the light.
that film is Blinded by the Light. So, Sharon, before you tell us whether you were happy and it did actually give you a good film for grown-ups film, tell us what is this about?
Blinded by the light. It's about this young packet. It starts off in 1980,
Yep.
the year you were born, Toast.
Yeah. Yes. The year I was born.
And you see these two lads who live outside of the town of Luton, which is basically close enough to London for them to know that it's not London, but far enough away for them to feel that disconnect.
Yeah.
And
Far
famously
enough
known
for
in
them
the
to
years
feel
gone
like they're
by
missing
as
out
a
on something.
yes, that they're missing out on life, basically. It's famously known as a car building town with all the car factories, and that's where how most people are employed. So these two young lads, one is from a Pakistani origin and one is from a British background. They then grow up basically, and they watching the world passing by. They live on the top of a motorway, and they can see all these cars heading into London. And they just grow up with this feeling that that life is passing them by. Then you get this fast forward 10 years to 8 years to 1987, and they've just started sixth form college. And our young hero, Javid, sorry.
Javed.
Javid, that's it.
I have a bit of a cheat in this because one of my friends is called Javed. So I was like, someone in a film with your name.
You know the pronunciation. Yeah, I never know sure on pronunciation when when it's something outside of my culture. So I'm thinking I want to be sensitive about this by not getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And I got it wrong. So, Javid. Javid is this young, and so you see him at 17, just starting sixth form college, just starting his A levels, and he just feels sort of like out of step with the people around him. He's not really into the music of the day, like the Pet Shop Boys or Bananarama or Tiffany. He's sort of out of step with these things, and then he meets a young Sikh boy who says, you really got to listen to the boss, and he's like, who? The boss, Bruce Springsteen. And on the night of the hurricane, October 1987, you see him finally sort of putting this tape of Bruce Springsteen music in his Walkman, and his eyes are opened in a whole new way. I mean, that someone has expressed his feelings in music in a way that he's never heard before.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the words and the songs of Bruce Springsteen sort of resonate with him. Yeah, this is someone who is expressing his sort of anger, despair, fear, hopelessness at times,
Yep.
and all sorts of things. Suddenly, they've been put to music, and someone is expressing these things that he's been struggling to express all his life. And so he finds that suddenly, from not having a voice, he's suddenly found this voice that triggers his own sort of artistic creativeness,
Yeah.
and it inspires him to write better and more targeted, more focused poems and articles and diary entries, basically, and essays. So his life is transformed by Bruce.
All right, cool. So, and that's thank you very much for the recap. Now the question is, did it give you that, oh my God, finally a film for grown-ups, Phil?
Yes, I thought it reached out on many levels. It reached out on the nostalgic level because obviously that was 1987 was when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exactly the same age as a protagonist, so I was 10 in 1980, 17 in 1987.
Yep.
And I discovered my own music in sort of the late 80s, and for me it wasn't Bruce Springsteen. For me it was English folk music.
Yeah.
The first time I heard English folk music properly, it was just like, this is my this is me. This is expressing my inner life. It's just, this is my expression of it.
Yeah.
And so for him, it was like Bruce suddenly was summed up what he wanted to say. For me, it was folk music. And so there's that nostalgic thing. But there's also, you know, if you're young, you can identify with it, saying that actually these feelings you may feel of like this disconnect to your parents, to your culture, to other things. It's, you know, it's sometimes that is part of growing up, and part of finding out who you are is by, you know, reconciling yourself to your community or your parents or your past, and then forging your own future. So you can see it as a grown-up looking back, as a young person looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so for me it was a film for grown-ups because it did have thought behind it.
Okay, that's good.
It had emotion, it had feeling, and yeah, I thought it was a great film.
Well, you see, this is the thing. Because this is the film that's been universally loved and lauded, and some of the things that I think it's been lauded for, I think it should be. But I have to admit, I have some issues with it. I had some issues with the film. So the central story and everything like that, I think it's one of these films that I think it has a lot of tonal shifts in it, and for instance,
yes, towards the end, it suddenly does.
Yeah,
yes, I did feel that at the end. Yeah.
Well, no, I think for me, it was all the way through. I thought there were quite a few tonal shifts in it. So the hurricane, I take it you remember the hurricane from.
Yes.
You remember it happening
when it happened. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's good to know that wasn't just a film convention thing that they did, like, you know, people kissing in the rain or something like that. It's good.
No, it was ferocious. We lost our shed roof, and my dog was forever traumatized after that night. He would never sleep outside again. He had to sleep inside. From that night on, he became a nervous dog after that.
All right, cool. Okay, nice to know. Nice to know that actually did happen. It helps a little bit. But okay, so they have this concept in the film, like whenever he listens to Bruce Springsteen, the words show up on the screen and, like, you know, are going around his head and everything like that. And I felt like that was overused because I feel like it was overused. You're never sure whether this is supposed to be, like, you know, sort of like a realistic slice of realism, or whether there's supposed to be some sort of magical thing happening on. I feel like some of the music sections.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were occasions when I wasn't sure whether this was straying into fantasy, or whether, like he was dreaming this, or whether this was actually happening. Yeah, there were some of those elements when people start dancing, especially. I'm thinking, oh, okay.
You're like, is this actually happening or what? Because, for instance, I don't feel like Bruce Springsteen is like an instant hit of something you listen to and you go, whoa. So I felt like, you know, the sort of instant thing about him listening to the music, and it didn't get across to me why it would have such an immediate impact on this guy who started changes the way he dresses, everything like that. That didn't come across to me. I thought that some of the music sections were too long. There's a bit where they break into a radio station and they play Born to Run over the school PA system, and then they play the whole song, and that whole sequence doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, is it during the school day? What's going on? Where are they going to? Now they're in the town center.
And there are some scenes where other people seem to be joining in. And I'm thinking, how are they hearing this?
Yeah,
are they all?
And throughout the film, everybody tells him that Bruce Springsteen is an old thing and that it's not the new thing. And nowadays, everyone listens to Tiffany, but everybody starts joining in and dancing and singing along, and that section just went on and on. I felt a bit like Shaun. Shaun hates car chases in films. Shaun despises car chases.
Yes.
And I felt like Shaun with a car chase. I was like, what? Oh, for goodness sake, it's still going on. Wait, explain what is happening. And there's a whole subplot with, like, him getting a girlfriend, which I think the film could do without. I feel like it's chucked in because you have to have that, and I feel like it doesn't bring anything to the party, quite frankly. And I really don't think it does. And there's a bit where he's singing a Bruce Springsteen song in the markets to the girl he's trying to get, and then his friend's dad jumps in, played by Rob Brydon. And it just, I'm like, I don't know whether you're supposed to be making a musical, whether it's supposed to be magic realism, whether it's supposed to be kitchen sink drama. I don't know what this is. and So it got me to a point, but the thing about it, right, is I'm actually reading off my phone because I had to write down these things because what the film does is that I think that by the time it gets to the end, I think the film nails the ending, and I've in my mind it nails the ending so well that you could very that I personally I could forget that, oh yeah, I was having problems with this film earlier on, so I was like, quick, I need to write down why I had problems with this film before I forget all about it because the ending's good. And I feel like towards the end it comes back to the themes that I think are the strongest in the film, which is the father son thing, the clash of this
Yes.
guy who is he's essentially from two different cultures because his parents are Pakistani, but he grew up in England, and it's about
Yeah.
this push and pull between he like his father keeps saying, oh, don't do it like the English, that's the way the English do it, you're not English, you're Pakistani, and he's like, yeah, but I am English, I grew up here, listen to the way I talk, all. And I feel like that's where the film I find is on surer footing when it comes back to that, and it talks about that, and they I think the because it's Kulvinder Gair who plays his dad, who I've loved ever since I saw him in Goodness Gracious Me.
Yeah, good. He was, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm doing for mainly. Is goodness gracious me.
yeah, and he plays his dad. I think he's brilliant. I think he does really really well, and he takes a character that could have been one note and could have been like comic relief. Just like, oh, look at
Yeah,
him. He's the funny Pakistani dad who walks in and is always worried about money and is always saying this and is always
yeah,
telling his son, oh, like one of my favorite lines of the film, where he goes, look, I'm not like other Pakistani fathers. I will not tell you have to be a doctor. A lawyer is okay. Maybe an estate agent.
yeah.
So he has those elements, but he still manages to make him a human. And I think mainly
Yes,
because of the mother. There's the fact that where you have the whole Margaret Thatcher 1980s, he gets laid off from his job, and you see and I think some of the most affecting scenes are where you see him going every day to the job center in his suit, because
yes.
he's trying to
Just
keep
trying anything.
yeah,
Yeah,
trying to keep a dignity, trying to keep this sort of dignity. And at the same time as this is going on, you have his son who is trying to figure out who he is apart from his father, apart from his family. And so those bits, I think, is where the film comes back to. And I think the film's a much surer footing there, and I really, really like those scenes. And I think it almost comes to the point that because I think that's the strongest bit of the film, his Awakening by Bruce Springsteen does not particularly feed into that story. So it becomes this weird film where you've come here because you come to see this Pakistani boy um, have this affinity with Bruce Springsteen, but the strongest bit of the film might have happened anyway, with or without Springsteen. I don't really know. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, I feel like okay, Springsteen was great for him, but it was not particularly a big part of his story. If you get what I mean, he loves Springsteen. It says at the end of the film he's seen him over 150 times in concert. I heard him speaking on BBC Radio 5 Live, and he was talking about how that's the real Javed. He was talking about what Springsteen means to him and the words and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like the story that they're telling, it doesn't quite hold together. But I think that they stick the ending. I really do feel like the ending of it, that's where a lot of the themes come together, where he's going off to, well, it's a real life story, so you know anyway, where
yeah. He's going off to uni.
yeah, it's going off to uni, and then and then I'm thinking, okay, some of these themes are coming together now, but there's a whole bunch of things in the film that I think, that didn't need to be there. The girlfriend, I don't really think needed to be there. It's, but
No, I just thought I quite just to sort of come in on that sort of thing about the girlfriend. The only thing I thought that was useful to see, it was like the juxtaposition between him trying to form a relationship, with a girl, sort of in relation to his sister having her arranged marriage.
oh
For
yes,
him
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
he's sort of he's part of this household and part of this culture where that is expected of him, but he's then trying again to find his own path to navigate the world between these two cultures. That he's British, but he's also got this, he's Asian.
Yeah,
So trying to navigate the cultural path between keeping his family happy and then doing what he sort of wants to do to fulfill his own sort of needs as an independent sort of young man.
yeah,
So I thought just that as a to sort of contrast between the culture of arranged marriage and the fact that he wants to form relationships of his own, sort of more organically.
Yeah.
So that's the only way I thought. Yes, it sort of balances though that the two cultures where they sort of meet and sometimes they collide and sometimes they sort of work together. Like I think it was like a good. I liked. Yes, that's just my only thought about that. But some things I did like about the film. I liked about the neighbour. I thought he could have so easily turned into a stereotypical, grumpy old man neighbour.
Grumpy old racist
I
man.
liked the way, just like the racist next door. I like the fact that they didn't fall down that sort of obvious rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And also the awful things that his friends, his father's best friend, who lives in like this will. The first Pakistani family to live in this road, and then they've just been victimised ever since. So
and then have people peeing through the letterbox.
Yeah, they have the one, that they think is going to be this ghastly neighbour who turns out to be really nice and very supportive, and the other neighbourhood, supposedly a much nicer neighbourhood, where they're treated appallingly by so-called, sort of nice people. So I think it's through every now and then you just get these contrasts, these compare and contrast moments where you look at the one family, then you see another, one relationship, then you see another. So I think that's the only way I think, I can see why they did jump about a little bit in trying to get these themes, but maybe they were just trying to cover too much.
I think
cultural conflict of the 80s as well as this one
as long as
personal transformation.
I have to admit that there were times when I did feel. I mean, I understand that it's just the guy's story; it's his life, and for that I applaud them for trying to show just his life. But I felt there were bits where I just thought this is all over the place. I was like, this is all. I'm not sure what story they're trying to tell me. So.
Yeah. I think if you hadn't grown up in the 80s, you may have thought it wasn't all just National Front marches and people, going on, being laid off. Some people are very nostalgic for the 1980s, regardless of all the things that were going on.
Yeah.
Big events happened in the 1980s, but that wasn't all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, as a teenager, I had quite good teenage years, unhampered by, National Front. I knew people who were in the National Front, of course, like most people do, but it was something that you're aware of, but it wasn't the biggest part of the 1980s as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I guess it's good to have because it's a different perspective. I know Shaun's a big the film I'm going to talk about next on Netflix, and we probably should move on to the next film, to be honest with you.
Yes, we haven't got our timer on, have we?
No, we haven't. Shaun's left and we forgot all about the timer. What's going? Shaun, come back. We need you because we need you to. Anyway, because
we need to give it a score. Then we need to give it a score.
But I was just going to say that because Shaun likes watching things from other cultures that he hasn't been exposed to. And I think that this is a bit like that. It sort of shows you a different aspect of the 80s that you might. Oh, I didn't live in the 80s in this country in the 80s, so I'm like, but it's good to see that. But anyway, how many stars?
But I really like, I'd give it a 4.
Yeah.
And what I did like as well is, for me, it was a glimpse into a world I don't know about, sort of Pakistani Asians or British Asians who live in this country, about some of the cultural things I just didn't know. So I thought that was good for me to sort of suddenly be exposed to something I didn't know. So I enjoyed it for that aspect. But I would give it a 4 because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would give it. For me, it's a high 3. I think that the ending redeems it, but it's because I think it comes back to strongest themes, as I said. But in the middle, I thought it was all over the place. But and those music sections were too long. Anyway, so moving on to the next thing. We now go over to Netflix, and you haven't seen anything on Netflix this week.
No, nothing at all.
So it's left to me to carry this load. So this week I saw a film called Otherhood, because I've been trying to do this whole thing with Netflix. You know how Netflix have started sort of shoving films in your face. So you sign into Netflix.
Yes, they say you might have seen this film, so you're bound to like this one.
Well, not even that. I mean, now they have like a banner at the top of the screen, and they go, "Look at this new release, watch it."
And the trailer plays without you having to click on it. It just starts playing.
The trailer plays without you having to click on it. So I actually had, I saw a film. There's a film that it brought up with, and I saw the trailer, and I thought, this actually looks quite nice. And it's called Otherhood. I'm not sure if you've noticed it. So it's a film starring...
I haven't even been logged into Netflix this week at all.
Okay, so it's a film starring Angela Bassett, Felicity Huffman, and Patricia Arquette, and they play mothers to sons, and they have a
Oh, I
so
have seen a trailer for this.
yes,
Yes.
yes, they become friends when their sons start hanging out at school when they're all young. So they start meeting together, and then they have this culture. Then they've developed what's the word? Not a culture, ritual where they meet up every Mother's Day and they sit down and they have a drink. And so this one Mother's Day, they all sit down and they're all drinking bourbon, and um and they're talking about how their sons have been like essentially are terrible people because they haven't gotten in touch with them. One of them just receives a text. One of them has to send herself flowers, and she pretends like her son is the one who sent them the flowers, and so they start talking all about what it's like to be motherhood. And what Patricia Arquette has this one line where she says something like it's like emotional, it's like endless emotional waterboarding. to which,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's quite an image.
yeah, to which Felicity Huffman goes, "That is the best description of motherhood I have ever heard." So, in a sort of like bourbon-inspired fit of courage, they decide, you know what, all our sons live in New York. We're gonna go over to New York and we're going to visit them. We're gonna make them see us and love us on Mother's Day. So the whole idea is that they drive over to New York, and when they get there, because I think they're all from Poughkeepsie, when they get there, they kick Angela Bassett out of the house in front of her son's house, and they're like, "Go, make him love you." When they drive off. So she goes and she meets her son, and he's like, "Mom, what are you doing here?" She says, "Yes, I'll come here, stay for a couple of days." And obviously he has his whole independent bachelor about New York lifestyle, and so it's all about them crashing into their son's lives in all sorts of different ways. So and I really really enjoyed this film because I felt it's something you don't see that often on screen. Number one, a mother son story, or in this case, three mother son stories, and also the point of view of what it's like to be a mother. And I know we had a bad mom, no, we had Bad Moms, which did a little bit of this that
Yep.
spoke about, okay, what is it and what kind of thing does society put on mothers, and says, oh, you're a mom, therefore you've got to X, Y, Z. They do a
Yes.
little bit of this, but I think it's done more successfully in this film, where they talk about, because this one the children have grown up, and you get to see a bit of what they've sacrificed to raise their sons, to raise their children, and now that the children have just sort of like left and all that, and it has all these and it goes into the relationships that the sort of sometimes testy relationships. Like one of them, her son's gay. She knows her son is gay. He lives with his boyfriend, but he's never actually told her that he's gay.
Right.
So she's all like, she's up at his house, and he's like, "Hi, you're his boyfriend. He's never actually told me," and all that kind of stuff. Or one of them, her son is supposed to be. Well, she's the Jewish mother, and she has like the sort of stereotypical overbearing Jewish mother things that you see in films.
Yes.
Yeah. So so they go into that, but her son is kind of like, oh yeah, all. Anyway, I'll just say all in all, because I'm trying to talk about this film without giving much away about what actually happens in it. But it's about the relationship between the mothers and the sons, and I love it because, a bit like what we're talking about, seeing a culture that you haven't really been privy to. I'm not a mother. I will never be a mother, and so I don't know what some of the things that they're going through are. So it was actually really really good to see somebody else give you like an insight and say, this is a bit what it's like. And I will say that I think that part of the reason why I watched this film is because my mum has recently been yelling at me. Well, not yelling, but just sort of like saying, "Oh well, you don't call, you don't write. What's going on?" So, so I guess I got guilt tripped into watching this, and made me think, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should call my mum.
I will call my mother. Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, ow. Sorry, the phone just went off in my ears. So yeah, so I was like, maybe I was watching it going, yeah, maybe I should call my mum. Maybe, yeah, she's put up with a lot. Maybe I should actually give her a call and all that. So I really enjoyed this film. And there's an actor in it who plays Patricia Arquette's son, and I was looking at him going, there's something familiar about him. I can't quite put my finger on it. What the? Then when the credits were going, his name comes up, and his name is Jake Hoffman, and I was like, oh, That's it. He's Dustin Hoffman's son.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and
I didn't know he had an acting son.
I did not know that either. But I was watching it. There is something familiar about him. When you look at him, and if you look up pictures of him online, he looks like his dad did when he was in The Graduate.
Oh wow!
Yeah, only that in this film he has a beard, but there's pictures of him without a beard, and I'm like, oh my word, he is a.
That's why you grew the beard.
Yeah, probably, to be honest with you. I mean, and even he has the same kind of like, his same kind of like, well-to-do, know-it-all, nervous, sad sack energy that his dad had back then, and you're like, oh my. It was freakish. It was freakish because there's times when you could swear that they've just put Dustin Hoffman in a film and used some de-aging technology on him and made him look younger. He's a dead ringer for his dad. He really, really is.
Wow.
Thankfully for him, he has different hair. So
Yeah.
thankfully he has different hair, but he's gonna have to deal with that his whole life. But I was just like, oh my god, Dustin Hoffman's son. Before I actually went online, I went, yep, it definitely is his son because
It's definitely him.
It's definitely him. So I really, really enjoyed Motherhood. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, good.
I'll give it a 4. I would say watch it, especially if you haven't called your mum recently and you want to feel really, really bad and you need some impetus to actually call your mum. Or if you are a mum, and you just want to sit down and identify with some people, I thought it did a very, very good job of bringing them in, making these people feel like they're actually friends, making them feel like that there's actually a history there, and it doesn't shy away from what life does to you over the course of like 20 years or something like that. And I think it's directed by a woman, but so I actually even though I personally don't think that nudity in the film is ever needed, I feel like it's funny that the only person you ever see naked in this film is a man.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? That's kind of refreshing. I was like, yeah, that's kind of refreshing. That at least, at least we got that. So yeah, Otherhood, go catch it on Netflix. I really, really enjoyed that. So now let's go back to cinema for our second choice, and this is a film that you have seen, and is the one that I was talking about that I had no idea was actually out. So
yes, it's a film called The Sun is Also a Star.
The Sun is Also a Star.
Doesn't tell you anything at all, does it, about what this film is going to be?
No, it doesn't. No, it's one step removed from The Art of Dancing in the Rain.
Yes. It's based on a book, so that's probably where
they got the title from.
Where they got the title from.
You can get away with such bad titles for books that you just can't with films.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't always scan on a film poster. But and I only came across this because last week we scrolled through everything that was out at the cinema.
Yep.
And it was like, seen it, reviewed it, and we went through the whole list. Or like not interested. We went through them all. And so I went through the list again on, I think it was Saturday, thinking, right, I've got to see something. I've got to see something at the cinema. It's becoming, ridiculous. So I spotted this one, and I saw the trailer. I thought, that's good enough for me. I'm going to see that. And so the first 5 minutes, I thought I was going to hate it, but then it grew on me. But basically,
it went past its it went past its its title.
Yes, it went past the causing intense irritation, and then I sort of settled into it, and it grew on me definitely as it went on. The basic story is it's set over one day, and it's a young Jamaican-born woman who's been living in America since she was a child, and they did a raid on a restaurant where her father was working.
Yep.
And they have been deported. Their visa has run out. They've outstayed. America is cracking down on all their so-called illegal immigrants.
Yep.
And so the family have been told, right, that's it. You've run out of chances. You've run out of appeals. You're going to have to go back.
Yeah.
And they are from Jamaica, so they're packing up, and the next day they're going back to Jamaica. Now she is desperate to finish off her education in America. She's got plans. She wants to be a scientist. She wants to go to university, and she's got her whole future mapped out ahead of her. And so this has come completely out of the blue. She does not want to go. She's got a future, and it's all planned, and nothing is going to get in her way.
Yep.
And so this is the day before she's got this one last chance. As maybe this, like a human rights lawyer, a solicitor, has had, who takes on these cases. She's thinking, if I can just get to see this one person, then maybe I can get them to relook at my family's case and we can stay.
Yeah.
And whilst on the beginning of her day, she encounters this young Korean boy, and her mantra is basically, it's just the facts. If it's not provable, it doesn't exist. If it's not measurable, or I can't experiment with it, you can't prove it's there, it has no foundation, it's no basis in reality, so it has no place in my life. And then this is a young Korean boy. He wants to be a poet, he wants to be an artist, but his family is determined that he's going to be a doctor, just like the last film. There's certainly parallels there.
Yeah.
He's sort of grown up with, he's first generation immigrant, so his family have been in America, settled for a long time. He was born in America.
Yep.
And so he's like, first generation born, but his family is South Korean.
Yeah, his family grew up in South Korea, came over, and then he was the first one that was born in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so their expectation is that their son, we've worked hard, we've slaved, and we've taken every menial job, and we've built up our little business, but you are going to be the doctor. You are our future.
Yeah, yeah.
And he doesn't want anything to do with it. But he thinks, that basically it's in the hands of fate.
Yeah.
That he's, fate will sort of guide him. And she's like, no, facts guide him. And then they meet by chance. I won't tell you how they meet, but they meet by chance. And then he says, just give me a day and I'll persuade you that, one, that you will fall in love within a day, that love is real. And two, that there is more beyond facts. There is, fate, there is destiny, there is, there's mystery and magic. And so they then have this day together, basically. And I won't tell you any more about their day together because it's, that's what the film is.
Ooh.
So it's basically a romantic teen drama, but with a bit of extra depth to it, with a little bit of a hidden, heart.
Oh, that's cool.
When I first started watching, I was thinking, oh, for goodness sake, I'm in the wrong film. I'm 20 years too old for this. And I should have read the subplot bit better. But actually, it really grew on me, and by the end of the film, I thought it was a really sweet film. I thought it was it grew on me, and I think it sort of grew into itself by the end of the film.
Oh, that's really. I actually quite like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. It's almost kind of like it sounds like a teen version, or a teen version of, like, with the before sunrise, before sunset sort of movies.
Yes, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Actually, it did remind me of that premise. Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's a movie called South Side with You that's about the Obama's first date, and that's similar to the One Day, and is about the first time Barack Obama texts Michelle. I think she was Smith. No, I can't remember what her last name was. It takes her out.
Yeah.
It takes her out on a date, and instead of one, and it sounds like that. And those films, when done well, can be really, really good. And I like the sort of like the mix of cultures that you're talking about, Jamaican and Korean. This sounds good.
Yeah, and she's the actresses. Oh, well, I looked them up afterwards because I thought, are they really, Jamaican or Korean? Not that it matters. I mean, they're acting after all. It doesn't have to be based on truth.
But it would be nice.
But she's American born. She's American born, I think, with like a West Indian heritage. And the young, her name is Yara Shahidi. Yeah, she was very good.
Oh,
she's got
is
this
it Yara
most
Shahidi?
Beautiful eyes. Yeah. She's in
Hello?
Blackish.
Sorry, Sharon, you've
What,
disappeared again. I think your hand's over the.
Oh. I've moved my finger, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, was she in Blackish?
Blackish, yeah,
She
Yara
reviewed that.
Shahidi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yara Shahidi. Oh, I think I saw something about this film, but I haven't found it anywhere. Yeah, Yara Shahidi, she's in Blackish. She plays Zoe in Blackish.
Yeah, she's got beautiful eyes. She's got quite mesmerising. And then the guy
Yeah,
plays Natasha Kingsley, and the young the young chap in it, Daniel Bay, he's played by a chap called Charles Melton, and he's half Korean.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
because when I first saw his publicity photos, I'm thinking, you don't look Korean. That's not very PC, sort of have to, put makeup on to make someone look a different culture. I thought they don't really do that. But apparently his mum is Korean, so
Yeah.
it's maybe not quite so inappropriate. But I was thinking, because when I first saw it, I thought, hello, do they still do that? Where
You're
they
like, oh dear. Oh dear.
we're going down that line of,
It's the 1950s
Yeah.
all over again.
yeah, where they've made a white actor look, exotic, to use a horrible expression.
Yeah.
But no, he is half Korean.
Oh,
But when he was younger, he did dye his hair blonde, and he did all sort of ordinary teen roles where
oh
he
yeah.
didn't emphasize his sort of Korean heritage, maybe.
Oh, I see what you mean. I'm looking at a picture of him right now. Yeah, I see what you mean. But this is the kind of film that there's a bit of me that I'm not gonna lie is hoping that this film ends with quite a heartbreaking scene where the deportation police show up and drag her out of the door anyway. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. I think that would be a nice bittersweet ending to a lovely day of a love story kind of thing. Oh,
Yeah. Well, I quite like the way the story progressed.
all right, cool.
I thought for me it worked because I liked the way it ended. I did.
Okay.
So I won't give you any more than that
I
because
guess
I think
you're being
it
quite coy
needs
about
to.
that.
Yeah, I think you need to let the story evolve, so that it can just like tell its story.
All right.
But I rated it. I thought it was really good.
All right. So how many stars
So
would you
I'd
give
give it a score. Well, again, I think I would give it a high 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's close to a 4, but to me, I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but I'd give it a high 3. I think.
Okay.
So
Shall we
yeah,
go
just-
for the oft-seen 3.5?
yes, because for me, because I did find it really irritating at the beginning,
You're
and
like,
that loses half a point because I didn't get into it straight away. I didn't warm to it straight away, and it's only sort of part way through that I thought, actually this is growing on me. But when I first met the characters, I was thinking, oh, for goodness sake, yeah, I am I'm the wrong generation for this film, and I was thinking, I'm just glad I've got my pick and mix with me to get me through it. But
Were you watching this by yourself?
yes.
Oh, good lord.
But yeah, when I finished my pick and mix, I still stayed, so it was worth it.
Good lord. I just love this image of you sitting there going, all right. Oh, God. But then it's a good thing if the film pulled you back. If the film pulled you back, it must have something about it.
Yes, it did. It did, and that is something, isn't it? When you start off and you're thinking, stone the crows, this is going to be a long 1.5 hours, and then it was much better than I thought. I mean, I remember another teen film I saw, Kissing Booth, because we'd heard so much about it.
Yes,
I
on
sat through that, and my cynical face never left me throughout that whole film. There wasn't a bag of pick and mix big enough to get me through that film without hating it. So this was quite. I was quite happy that better.
I can see a whole new feature, which is Sharon watches teen films. We get to watch teen films, and then just see what you think. Oh, another one that I think you quite like because this isn't a Netflix film, even though it sounds for all the world like a Netflix film. I think I referred you to All the Boys I Loved Before, so you should give that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether you ever actually saw that.
No, I never did. I never got around to seeing it.
All right, cool. Yeah, but if you ever do, I think that was a good one. But I think that you seem to see this okay. So you said the guy who plays Daniel Bay is half Caucasian, half Korean, and Yara Shahidi is actually she's half Black American and half Iranian.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I think it's like, let's just go out there and we can get a nice wide group of people to go see this. But yeah,
and it was interesting the cast because when I looked at the cast, it's only afterwards that I suddenly thought, actually, it was a quite diverse cast. So I don't
Yeah.
think there were any white actors in it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And it wasn't noticeable because it's not mattered. Colour is not relevant in this sort of film.
Yeah.
And they don't really mention their sort of cultural heritage a lot. But it wasn't those things I'm thinking, hey, when the white people going to show up? It wasn't like that. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I suddenly thought, you know what? I don't think there were any white speaking parts in this film.
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot more of that. Like when you sit down and watch a film and you think about it afterwards, and you're like, wait a second, what? Oh yeah, someone actually thought about this. Someone thought. I think the best ones are the ones where you don't realize it, and it's only just like something maybe at the back of your mind, and you're like, ugh. Then afterwards you're like, that's what it was.
Yeah,
they're actually doing this diversity thing. Oh wow.
Yes, it is a proper diverse film. Yeah, because I thought even like the secretary and the people in there, I thought even the secretary was a person of different sort of ethnic backgrounds. They were all diverse backgrounds.
Sharon,
I was like,
I love you so much. I love you so much for not saying person of color. But I think I've wanged on about how much I do not like that term. So I love you for that.
No.
Carry on. Sorry, I just had to say that. Carry on.
No. So it was. I didn't even notice. I was walking home and I suddenly thought, yeah, actually, it was a diverse cast. So good on you.
All right, cool. So
it's a solid film. I enjoyed it.
So Son is also a star, managing to escape the gravitational pull of that title to actually give you a to actually give you a film.
Yeah,
you have to give you a pretty good film. And it's funny what you were saying about Yara Shahidi being striking, because yes, she is. But this is one of those things that when I was watching Otherhood, I just thought I was just kind of like. But another reason to watch it, I have to be honest, to put my cards on the table. Angela Bassett. I look at that woman and I go, if I didn't believe that I should only ever sleep with my wife, I would be willing to be shot down by Angela Bassett by trying to make a move on her. I was thinking Angela Bassett.
Well, she was hypnotic in Tina Turner, wasn't she? In Tina, she was just hypnotic in that.
In What's Love Got to Do with It? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and she is. Yeah, I mean Angela Bassett. I think a woman is ageless. I think she's amazing. Same thing with Felicity Huffman.
Yeah, she's stunning.
Felicity Huffman, I think, is also brilliant. I think out of the three of them, Patricia Arquette was the only one whose charms I have so far been immune to. Although in this film, I was kind of like, okay, cool, yeah, I can see what the big deal is. But yeah, I think they're just amazing women. But anyway, I just thought I had to say that. And now let's move on before it gets weird. Now we go back to Netflix, and I saw a film. So I'm not sure whether you have this, but I think most people will probably have this, where you've gone through Netflix and you've been like, oh well, let's see what's that. Oh yeah, well maybe I want to watch that, and I found that there used to be a time when I would just watch anything, but now I find that increasingly I have to be in the mood for something to watch it.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely,
I've gone through. I've had like carpal tunnel injury scrolling through these things, finding something that sort of fits what I want to watch that evening.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel like in the mood for watching that. I don't feel in the mood, and that's something that I felt a bit embarrassed about, because I never used to have that. I used to just be like, film, watch it. But now I'm like, oh no, I don't feel like I'm in the mood for that. And so I've ended up with this massive list. You know how you have my list on Netflix, and my list on Netflix is probably about 40 films long. Of films that I have just never got around to watching. So I was like, you know what, we do a podcast called Netflix versus Cinema. Maybe I should actually go into this thing and watch the film. So it came down to two films. It came down to one called Wildlife with Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey Mulligan, which I might see for next week.
I was going to watch that last week, but I wasn't in the mood.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Because I know that how every year there's a film that gets people say, oh, she should get a Best Actress nomination. This was the film everybody was talking about how great Carey Mulligan was, but she didn't get any. It's like the Academy didn't even notice that they made that film. So I wanted to go watch it, but it came down to be between that, and it came down to another film called Keanu.
I know, the one about the cat.
The one about the cat, starring Jordan Peele, who is now a big name director and Oscar winner, by the way.
Wow.
For Get Out and Us, and his comedy partner for years, Keegan-Michael Key. No, yeah, that's right. Keegan.
Oh, he was one of the voices in Lion King, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was one of the hyenas.
One of the hyenas.
Yeah, he was one of the voices in Lion King, one of the voices in Toy Story 4. He pops up all over the place.
He was like one of the fluffy toys, wasn't he, in Toy Story
Fluffy
4?
and Bunny, where it was Key and Peele. it was the two of them who were doing the voices for that. So yeah, they popped up in the first season of the TV show Fargo. They have their own show Key and Peele, and this is the first time I think they'd done a movie together where they were the starring couple. So, I mean, did you ever see Keanu when it was in the cinemas?
No, I didn't. I'm aware of it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, yeah. So this it was one of the, it, and it's the whole idea of this film is that this film starts off and it looks like any one of these sort of like crime movies where you're in what looks to be like a drug den where they're cutting some sort of drug, I guess, to and then all of a sudden this guy and there's this cat, and I have to admit I was talking about you were talking about how cats foul people's gardens and then you have to go clean it up because you're a gardener, you're trying to dodge cat poo and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, that was
And
my day.
yes, and I was talking about how I'm not particularly a cat person, but the cat in this film is so cute. I mean, he's so cute enough to make you a cat person, and he's so cute that he almost makes the plot of the film make sense. Because the whole idea is
Right.
that at the beginning of the film, this cat is the pet cat the of the guy who runs this drug den, and someone busts into the drug den, fires everybody, kills everybody, and they're about to kill him. Then they see his cat, and then they go, oh, and then these silent, sort of like faceless killers pick up this cat and start nuzzling the cat and everything like that. Like, oh, this cat is so cute, but then they kill him anyway, and then the cat runs off. The cat runs off, and then Jordan Peele, he plays a character called Rel or something like that. So he's just been broken up with his girlfriend. He's quite depressed. He's just sitting at home and smoking weed. But then the cat comes to his door and scratches his door, and he's like, oh, oh. And then the cat brings him out of his funk, and he names the cat Keanu because he believes it's like, oh, Keanu means cool breeze in Hawaiian. So he names the cat Keanu, and then he starts making like a calendar by taking pictures of the cat in all these sort of different film poses and all that. But one day he goes out with his cousin, who's played by Keegan-Michael Key, and so he goes out with his cousin, and when he gets back, someone's broken into his house, and they've ransacked the place and taken the cat. So it becomes this sort of like detective thing where they're trying to, but it's almost like a stoner detective thing, a little bit Big Lebowski like, as you're trying to follow the tracks of who took my cat, where did they go, and then they find out that the people who raided his house were a local gang, and then the guy who took it, the head of the cat has fallen, the head of the gang has fallen in love with his cat, so. So they go in there, and instead of just sort of saying, "Oh, well, we think that's a cat, can we have it back?" They decide to go in there. They decide to pretend like they're gangsters, and it just escalates from there, from a case of mistaken identity. And the film just gets more and more ridiculous as things go on. But within the ridiculousness, they have just some inspired sequences. Like there's a scene of Keegan-Michael Key in a car with a whole bunch of gangsters, and we're talking like L.A. South Central gangsters, and they're all talking about how they're showing off their scars, and they're talking about how they got these different scars and all that. And one of them is like, yeah, my mom shot me and all that kind of stuff. Then when I went back home, my grandmom shot me, and he's like lived this suburban life, so he has like nothing to say. And but because he's pretending to be this gangster, he starts playing. They start going through his the music in his car. And he starts playing, well, I gotta have faith, faith, faith. I gotta have faith, faith, faith. And they're like, what is this? This sounds kind of
What the
white.
hey?
Yeah, exactly. And they go to this whole thing where he tells the story of George Michael, but it makes George Michael sound like this gangster Godfather type person. Which I think is inspired because everything he says is true. He's like, oh, you see, George Michael, right? He used to roll with this guy called Ridgely, and then one day, wham! He decided he wanted to go do his solo thing, and nobody ever saw Ridgely again. And they're like, what, dude? He killed him? I said, nobody ever saw Ridgely again. And so it's funny, it's silly, and it just makes you laugh. It kind of like goes towards the end. As I think happens a lot with some of these comedies, it goes into a more sort of conventional action movie ending because you have to end it somehow. But I think even then they managed to do things, which is the idea being that there's just these suburban guys who are thrown into this larger than life situation where they have to pretend to be these gangsters, quite frankly, to stay alive.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to pretend to be guys to stay alive. And I really enjoyed this. I had it because obviously I spend a lot of time working at a computer when I'm editing things, and I had it on the other screen, and I just found myself just smiling and laughing at going, these guys. This film is kind of inspired. It's kind of inspired. It sort of takes a lot of tropes and plays with them, and I really enjoyed it. I think this might have to be a 3.5 because there's a bit of me that wants to give it a 4, but I can't. I don't feel as if I can because I don't think I will tell anybody, oh, you gotta go watch this film, is amazing. I think it's the kind of thing that some people might like, and some people might not get. But I think the fact that you have all these people and all these supposedly hardened people falling in love with this little fluffy kitten. it's just a weird concept for a film, and it's funny, but I will admit that the kitten is absolutely fun. It is absolutely fluffy, and they do. And all I would say is at some point they pay off with the cat being called Keanu. That's all I will say.
Okay.
That's all I would say. I think I'm gonna have to go for a 3.5. I'm gonna have to go for a 3.5 on this one.
Well, that sounds fair.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it, and personally, it's a 4. But I know that there's issues with it. The fact that it gets a little bit generic action movie towards the end. It has a post-credit sting that you're like, well, that I don't really want that to happen. We didn't need that, but it's. But yeah, and I think the supporting cast is great. It's one of the first films I think that probably recognized what a good find Tiffany Haddish is, or Tiffany Haddish, how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
It has Nia Long in it, and I would always have it. Oh, and now this is me going back to my childhood. So Nia Long, for a certain age of man, for a certain age of for a certain age of black man, shall I say, right about my age, Nia Long will always be known as Will Smith's girlfriend in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the one he almost married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's a man of a certain age who would go. You say Nia Long, and they'll go, Nia Long. And so I'm really happy that whenever she shows up in something, I'm really happy to see. I'm like, I'm so glad she's still getting work. It's good. So yeah, but that's it. That's me done. And that's it. We're done. We finished the films we're talking about, and all that's left to say is who the winner is this week.
Well, I think it was a close one. We've had 4s and 3.5, so I think it's a close one.
It is a close one. And I think this is actually morally a draw because of all the fence sitting we've done today. because of all the I don't know if I want to give it, because we've had a bit of a week like that. You're like, it's a 3. You're like, it's a 4. I'm like, it's a 3. You're like, I'm not sure if it's a 3 or 4, that kind of stuff. So the winner this week,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, the winner this week is mathematically is Netflix, because it's a 3.75 and cinema got a 3.5. But I think it's a moral draw, because I think you would have had as good a time as either one if you'd gone to Netflix to see Otherhood or Keanu, or gone to the cinema to see Blinding the Light or The Sun is also a star. I want to see that now.
Yeah, it just trips off the tongue, doesn't it, that name?
All I can say is I don't think anything's going to make me watch The Art of Dancing in the Rain. No, the art of racing in the rain.
Racing in the rain.
Oh yeah, dancing in the rain would make more sense. So
yeah, if it's dancing, hey, I'm up for it. But racing, nah.
Yeah.
With a talking dog, nah.
Yeah. Narrating dog, yeah, whatever. Give me a cat that people are killing each other for. Now that's my kind of fun. All right, cool. So I believe that's everything. Until next week, when Shaun will be back, we will probably have a timer back on, because Shaun will be back. And
this duo will become a 3.
Yeah. Actually, that sounds bad. It makes it sound as if Shaun is the one who holds us up. But I think this episode is total evidence that is not the case.
No, we can talk. There's no stopping us talking.
We can waste everybody's time. We can waste anybody's listening to us. We can waste your time. hire us. We can waste your time for free. But, yeah, until that time when we will be seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and reviewing that and something else, I don't know. Maybe we'll both see Wildlife on Netflix. Maybe
Yes,
maybe
that'd be
at
my
some point
mission
this
if I
week-
choose to accept it.
Yeah, maybe at some point this week we will both be in the mood and finally see that film.
Yes.
But yeah,
I need another rainy day, then I can do it.
when nobody wants to do anything to the garden.
Yeah, no one. You want to cut grass in the pouring rain, so it's like, hey, we'll have a duvet day.
Good stuff. So until that time, all that's left to say is a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
We will see you Netflix. We will see you next week. No, you think they were paying me? We will see you next week when we'll be talking about something. Bye.
Bye.